Let's go. Welcome to the Dynasty Deep Dive, where we go beyond the surface and into depths unknown. I am joined by a very special guest. I got the Thriller in Manila, FF Shane, or Shane says FF, right?
There you
On
go.
X. I mean, a legend. Really happy to have you on the show today. You're like, I guess, I guess I'm a legend.
I mean, if being old makes you a legend, sure.
Yeah, live long enough, you become a legend.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, man. Today we're going to be talking. I like a lot of the work you and the folks at Destination Devi do around like key dynasty roster strategies. So I want to talk a little bit about that. Talk about some of your top sleeper picks for 2025. So we'll kind of break this show into two parts loosely. Start with some roster strategy stuff, and then dive into some of your sleepers for 2025. So with that said, as to your point, as a guy who's lived and gotten some bumps and bruises along the way, I think this is it's an awesome space. Fantasy, it's a growing space, right? And every year there's people getting into dynasty for the first time. And I thought the best thing we could do is maybe impart some wisdom to some of the newer dynasty owners, or even, I'm curious to hear what your advice is here. What is one dynasty roster mistake you made early on that you would tell newer managers to avoid?
I think in this, look, man, this goes for life too, but just thinking the outcomes, right? So we're playing a game of probabilities, and all the probabilities could point towards one way, but it's still not a definite. And where that applies in fantasy football, I'll be super uber specific here, right? In your startup drafts, I know it's fun getting as many picks in the first few rounds as you can, and it's fun to move up in rounds. But I found that not all the time, but more than enough, dealing away a future first round draft pick during a startup draft is just bad process. It's a bad idea because, look, if your team's good enough in season, you'd much rather have that pick to go by then. The chances of you actually drafting, look, some people are really good at drafting, and half the league is going to make the playoffs, so half the league is going to make the right call. But that means 50% of the league who came out of that draft probably feeling good is going to be wrong. So I preach trying not to move your first round draft picks in your startup draft, and as much as I can, not in the summertime when I don't even know what my needs are on an existing roster or what my needs might turn into.
Right. And what, to your point, in the summer, you might be trading up for a player who, like an RJ Harvey, let's just say, for example, and then, now there's talks that J.K. Dobbins could be headed to Denver, right? So in the summer, there's just, you don't know what those rosters are going to look like at the start of the year. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I was talking to you before the show about the Player Profiler startup league that we were doing, and it was like 10th round, and I got an offer for a 2027 first, and for my 10th round pick. And I'm like, I got to take this. So I smash accept it. The chat blows up. Everybody's like, what the hell? Like, I would have given you a pick, rounds ago for that. And then the guy ended up taking Jalen McMillan with that pick before the NFL draft. And then they go and draft Emeka Ibuka. So I just a little story to give context to your point. You know what
Dude,
I
mean, even if it didn't turn out bad for him like that, it's still a terrible idea. First of all, a 10th round draft pick, you should not be giving up a first round draft pick at all. Honestly, in startup drafts, 12 teams. I'm just going to go off 12 teams, start 10, a normal. Generally, anything outside of the 4th round and even in the 4th round, I'm willing to move. Now, I won't move it straight up for a first round pick because I got to get another startup pick back. But like, if someone were to offer me like a 9th and a 1st for my 4th round pick, done. It's absolutely done because the tier gets so flat so quickly. People, and it's kind of like the NFL draft too, but like people just, I don't know. I think they just assume that the draft is deeper than it actually is. And it's deep in the sense that, yes, there's a lot of players that are the same, but those actual difference makers at the beginning of the draft, it drops off quickly. So I'm willing to move that pick back if I can get future first pretty early.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've experienced this, like in the leagues where you do go all in. Like there was one where I just tanked one year, did a full rebuild, had a ton of assets, and was like, hey, I have enough to go get Josh Allen in a SuperFlex. And so I traded for him because I was like, you know what? I want to contend, right?
Right.
But I ended up giving my 2026 first up for it and had a great team, good year, didn't win, unfortunately, like finished second or third. But what was tough was like going into this offseason, only people just want to talk about trading picks, right? And they're like, oh, well, you don't have a first. So like, well, we can't really talk, right? And so it's like,
Yeah.
when you get rid of that first, you're damaged goods to the rest of the league.
Yeah, you ain't wrong, man. You don't have buying power. And that's, like I said, we actually did an episode last night, man, Scott and I, where we found, and we'll do his teams next week. We found 8 teams that are kind of in that, I think it was like 3 to 9 range, 4 to 9 range, where you're not a prohibitive favorite. And you're also not completely out of it, right? Even at 9, you look at if you look at the probabilities on something like Dynasty data, you could see you're not that far off if you're from 9th or 6th. But one of the things you'll notice about your teams, if you look at them, is like, if I have no buying power, how do I move up? If my team is projected to be 8th, I don't have a first. What am I buying with? You know what I mean? Obviously, I can use my players. It's just a little harder for some people. I'm actually pretty good at that part of it, I think, is moving players around. But it's hard for some people to shift values of players into different players and building their roster a little differently. Like, it's not everyone can have the foresight to go, you know what, maybe I do need to move Justin Jefferson in this particular league because it's Justin Jefferson and no one wants to move him. Right. But maybe I'm better served moving him for, a lower tiered wide receiver in a first, a significantly lower tiered wide receiver in a couple first. It's hard to look yourself in the mirror and go, well, this is what I really need to do. But you put yourself in that position when you don't have draft picks to move.
Yeah. You know what? A little off script here, but Justin Jefferson was a guy I was thinking about myself actually like this morning. And because I have him in a league, and it's a league where I'm in a really good spot. I've got like Bijan and Gibbs as my running backs. It's only a 10-team league, so I just to get that out of the way, so people aren't like, oh, like, what is it, a 4-team league? Right? Yeah, it's only 10-team league, but it's a great roster that I've put together there. But he's 26 now, right? And at 28, I start to get a little nervous, right, long term for these guys, and so I'm like, man, he is like the number 1 asset right now in a single quarterback league. Like, how much longer do you hold on to that before you just get the max return that you can for a guy like him? So something I'm noodling on, and I'm curious if you've got any thoughts on, like, a guy like him and when the right time to move off an asset like him is.
Wide receivers, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but man, it gets younger and younger. When I first started playing Dynasty, it was like 27, 28 was where people would start going, oh, this guy's old. Now it's almost like 26 years old. People are already like, no. But did you see the new hotness? Like, did you see Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr.
Right.
and Lad McConkey? And it's the same thing, right? It's like, there's no way that they're not just going to keep doubling and scoring. I mean, if they scored 15 points as a rookie per game, they're probably going to score 30 as a sophomore. It's like, it doesn't really work like that. Yes, you get better, but it's not that exponentially better.
Right.
I think it does differ depending on the position, right? Like running backs, I'm literally always looking to do it as soon as they hit that mark. Like Bijan, I absolutely love the dude. On my rosters that I have him, how can I move him? How much can I get for him?
Wow.
That's the first thing that pops in my head. And, in some leagues, people can't afford it. And I'm not just going to take anything, right? So it's not like I'm going to move Bijan for Tony Pollard in a first. Like, you send me that, and I'm going to go, that's not enough. That's not what we're talking about. But, and again, looking at doing the episode last night, I found a middling team, and I went, all right, I do need to move Bijan. How can I break them up? So what I did is I moved Bijan and a third. I offered Alec Pierce, and he'd rather the third, I think, but whatever. Bijan, yeah, I would have taken Alec Pierce. I love his spike weeks, but that's it. Anyway, it was Bijan in a third, but I got Quinshon Judkins, a 26 first, and Jackson Dart. And It's a fairly deep league, and it's a league where I didn't have a future first because I went all in to win the title last year, made it to the title game, and they got absolutely destroyed in the title game, which hurts even worse. So I had to reset. You know what I mean? So like a deal like that, if you're contending, then it's like, all right, what can I get with Devon on top of Devon and Shane to move from Bijan to Devon and Shane? Something. Like that. So
yeah,
it does,
and you still be in a position to compete, right? Yeah.
Right. You're trying to make the process deal. Now, tight end, I'm just hold on to him for dear life. Bowers, McBride, even Kittle. I mean, but same concept. Like, okay, can I get someone to give me something on top of George Kittle for Trey McBride? Okay, let's talk. But if I can't, that position is so scarce that it's like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. And then quarterback, look, if I have one of the top, the big five, I think it's five. If I have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, or Jaden Daniels,
Joe Burrow.
Some people throw Joe Burrow in there. I really don't because he's not mobile like that.
Right.
And that's what I want. But if I have one of those big four, it's going to take a lot to get them off of me, right? Because I'm set there and it lets me do so many other things with my roster. Like if I have a monster quarterback at the one position, I don't need to go overpay for my second quarterback. So that I'm a little more stingy. But like a quarterback in the Bo Nix range, even Kyler Murray, who I love, they're all movable. They are all movable.
Yeah. I'll just touch on tight ends for a second, because it seems like there was this, there was data to support it in the past, right? That like, oh, first year tight ends, like that's just not the right thing to invest in, right? And Sam Laporta kind of put that to bed, and then Brock Bowers really just put it, completely erased it, right? And then now you've got guys like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland coming out this year who, I think the position is it's changed, right? Where these guys can come in and immediately make an impact. So it feels like it's a young man's sport, but it's getting younger every day, which is awesome to see. I think, because it makes Dynasty that much more fun, where you can draft these rookies and immediately you have higher expectations now than you've had in the past,
Yeah, people are fully expecting Tyler Warren to jump in this year. And if he doesn't give you 12 points a game, people are going to be like wildly upset at him. Like, how could you do that to me? I mean, Brock Bowers is, that dude's just special.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fair. So to compare people to him is a little rough. Laporta is probably, not that he wasn't great in his rookie season, but Laporta is like a more attainable goal, I think, right? If a guy can get there, it's just, I think we get overexcited with a Dalton Kincaid rookie season, and they go, "Oh, this dude's going to absolutely smash." And then you're like, "Wait a minute." 2 years later, you're like, "Wait, you're still just 9 points per game. Like you didn't move up at all. Like, bro, you stayed exactly the same. That's not what I needed from you."
Right. So you wrapped up with quarterbacks there. Let's dig a little bit deeper into your thoughts around quarterbacks. This class was perceived as weaker, right? And I say perceived because like quarterback is such a hard position to evaluate. Like Cam Ward could go out and absolutely, set the league on fire, and we get one or two other quarterbacks like Tyler Shook who outperform expectations, and all of a sudden this class looks a little better, right? But that being said, when you're doing like startups in SuperFlex, how are you prioritizing guys like Cam Ward and even like a Jalen Milroe versus maybe a more, elite, already established skill player?
So again, I mean, it's going to depend on the degrees, right? Like, what can I get with Cam Ward, or excuse me, what can I get with the quarterback plus Cam Ward, depending on the quarterback I have? Like, can I trade Kyler Murray for Cam Ward in a second? I'm all in. Well, all in is kind of a strong word. And I actually love Kyler Murray, so I'd probably turn that down. So let's find another quarterback. Can I move Bo Nix for Cam Ward in a second? I probably would do that. Like I like Cam Ward a lot. Like I know he was perceived weak class. He was still the first pick overall. He was still the first quarterback overall. And even if the quarterback class is weak, they don't just automatically pick a quarterback at 101 if they don't think the talent's there. You saw what happened when the talent's not there. It's Kenny Pickett is the first quarterback off the board at whatever
19,
he was that year.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that, right? And that's not what happened here. Like Cam Ward is like uber talented. I don't know if people, maybe they don't get that because he was really on the big stage only that 1 year in Miami. But the dude is super talented, and I'm high on him. So, and then after that, I'm a dart guy. I've been a dart guy for, I guess, his entire time at Ole Miss. So I always liked Jackson Dart. My son happens to absolutely adore him for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he liked him. So and I like him even more. But I like Dart. Again, he has that mobility to him. Not Jaden Daniels, maybe Baker Mayfield type of mobility, but that's still useful. You give me 450 yards rushing on top of whatever you do as a passer, I'm good. After that, man, it's funny. I touted Tyler Shuck. I was all over him until push came to shove, and then it's like, well, he got drafted in the second round, so now you got to kind of pay a little more.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I like
you
it
like
better
the
when
idea of him as a
third round.
sleeper. Yeah.
And I got to pay a second for him. I'm like, oh. But it's funny because Shador falling like that, I ended up with more Shador than I thought.
Yeah.
So I was happy with that. Milrow is just like, if you probably should not pass up Milrow to draft Sanders or Shuck. Just looking up at their relative outcomes, the ceiling. If you're just shooting for ceiling between the three of them, like which one of those dudes, based off of their archetype, could be an elite quarterback, it's probably Milrow. And no, not because of the quarterbacking, but because he's the closest one to the skill set of Lamar, Jalen, Josh,
right,
Jaden. You know what I mean? He's not saying he's exactly them, although he got a ton of comps to Hurts, but he's the closest out of the next three quarterbacks in that build. So yeah, I think it should be Cam, Dart. I'm saying Milrow now, right? I need it out there. I don't want people to think I'm, I'll be honest with you. I didn't draft a lot of him. It's
right.
Looking back now with all my rookie drafts gone, and you get the hindsight and you go, why am I shooting for, like, I'm batting for a single in the second round? Why would I not try for the home run? Either way, if I strike out, I strike out. But if I hit, the upside's greater with Milrow. So it's that order for me now.
Yeah, Milrow's an enigma, right? Like, it's a very unique situation. Darnold got paid. Coach McDonald saying he is the unquestioned starter, but situations change quickly. I think after that quote came out, I was just looking at like some of the replies on X, and everyone was like, yeah, this is what he's saying, but Milrow will be the starter by week 7. And I'm like, I don't know about that per se, but if he sees the field, like, it's just like Jalen Hurts, right? When he was drafted as a backup, and then
Yep.
You get that opportunity and you never look back, and you've got an elite fantasy asset. I'm a big believer that you don't need to be a good real life quarterback to be an elite fantasy asset, right? If you've got legs. So to your point though, I don't have any Milrow because in every league that I'm in, I think my league mates see it the same way, and they were reaching for him. They were taking him like early second in SuperFlex, late second in single QB, and it sounds kind of crazy, but you're like, to your point, you're swinging for the fences with a guy like that, and I can commend that. We're playing this game to win, right? We're not playing this game to hit singles. To your point, so.
Yep.
Well, cool. So, let's talk a little bit about running backs, because I saw, I want to give you some credit. You and Scott, your Mannequin Chill show is fantastic. And, I like was watching it the other night. And I'm like, man, these guys are like rocket scientists when it comes to like roster construction and analyzing war, right? And all those things. And I'm like, man, like this is like, let's just, there's this Dynasty for beginners, right? Dynasty for dummies. Yours is like Dynasty 4.0, right? Like if your graduating class, like, or your final class, your capstone. So that being said, on that episode I was watching, you guys were doing a startup and took Bijan at the end of the first. And typically something I kind of shy away from, and you had even just talked about like, hey, a running back is always for sale. And even on that episode you mentioned, like, they're the most injury prone position. That's one injury away from your first pick being a tough one, right? So that being said, do you typically lean towards like locking in those stud quarterbacks early in SuperFlex, or was your guys' approach like, hey, that's getting a little too mainstream, that's what everyone's doing, so we're going to kind of try and find that value with maybe someone like a Bijan?
So specific to this, you were talking about the war, which you can find on ddfantasyfootball.com. there's a promo code. I have it. DM me. And hopefully you don't get buried in all my crypto DMs. I'll give you a promo code for the half off the first month. But no, it's just so skewed towards running back scoring in that league. And we were already past the range of elite quarterbacks, right? The top, whatever, 4 are gone. Burrow's gone. We were already, by the time we drafted, Pat Mahomes was gone. So we were well past the point that an elite quarterback was even an option. So at that point, and standard, I don't say standard, but regular leagues where the war is not so heavily running back skewed, once you get past those first 4, at that point, I'm fine with taking Jefferson or Chase. Because to me, I don't care who's scoring me 20 points a game. I don't care what the position says. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson are just as likely to go out there and drop 30 on someone as Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? So to me, I don't care if it's a quarterback or a wide receiver. Generally, I'll stay far away from running backs, far away. This particularly, I keep talking about Ward, but from I don't want to say simplistic. That sounded jackassy. But from a simple perspective, right, it's PPC. So we get 0.2 per rushing attempt. So just do the math on that, right?
Yeah.
Then it's also, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's something like 0.2 or 0.25 rushing first downs as well. So just every time Bijan and then Genty right after that gets us a rushing first down, you're looking at 0.45 points, basically almost a half a point every time. And again, it's like, oh, well, how often does that happen? Well, let's say Bijan, I did the math, Bijan, Genty are probably in that range of, let's just say 18 carries a game, conservatively. That's something like 2.75 points just in rushing attempts without first downs. You add some first downs into it, it adds up. It definitely does. Now, it is risky because we did pick the fragile position, right? We picked the players with the shortest length shelf life.
Yep.
Although some of that thinking is also based off of, I don't want to say faulty data, but it's based off data around a lot of running backs that weren't very good. That maybe it wasn't because they got old, it's just that they weren't good to begin with. So when the good ones came, they got replaced. Because if you look at guys like Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, you know what I mean? Go back to that class, those couple classes. Those dudes are still around. Saquon, we were talking about him earlier.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry doesn't count. He's a cyborg. But you know what I mean? Like that Joe Mixon class, that Alvin Kamara, there was Josh Jacobs is fairly.
Aaron Jones, I think, was in that class. Still kicking. Yeah.
Right. So it's funny how like, when you're a really good running back, you seem to play longer. Maybe those correlate in some way. I don't know.
Well, I love it, bro, because I have been on the Bijan train like since the first few weeks. I mean, forever since he came out, but it's just was like, those first few weeks of 2024, it wasn't what everybody kind of expected. And I think the end of the year, we got the production that we've been waiting for from a guy like him. But it just sounds like you're sold on the talent, right? And I'm a big believer in the eye test at the end of the day. Like whether the fantasy points weren't there at the beginning of the season, I was watching the tape. I'm like, this dude still makes like 3 people miss per attempt. Like has, can do it all, has wide receiver hands, can run inside and out. So I actually really liked that pick. And to your point about the scoring settings and taking that into consideration, more dynasty leagues need to do I don't want to call it funny scoring, but like it adds a wrinkle and it makes it fun, right? I am curious, are you in Scott Fishbowl this year?
Yes, I am.
That'll be fun. So
I made it in.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Right?
Yeah, no, I don't know how many years I've been in it. I looked at that. That's 0.5 PPC.
Right.
That is crazy. So again, just Bijan goes out there and gives you 18 carries. There's 9 points. Bijan goes out there and gives you 20 carries. Guess you know what I mean? Like people can do simple math. It's 0.5. Like that's going to be bananas. I have to look at the quarterback scoring to get my head around that too, because apparently that kind of balances out. But that's going to be fun, man. That's always fun because there's always a new wrinkle to it too.
Yeah, no, the scoring last year was really fun with the returners, and the scoring this year is very interesting. And like, if you're in a league like that, this sounds kind of archaic, but I literally create my own spreadsheet and input my own projections for, my top 250 players. Takes a lot of time, but I run it through the equation that considers every single thing that they're going to do that's going to produce fantasy points to create my kind of top list. And so I'm really interested to do that exercise and do Travis Hunter, his, offensive projections and defensive projections, and see where he stacks up with those running backs. Cause there's a lot of points to be had for IDP, but you can only start players who are offensive. So it's really, it's the Travis Hunter scoring settings, right? So it'll be really interesting. I will say, when I saw that there was a heavy bonus for players who play defense, who are also on offense, aka just Travis Hunter, I immediately went in, and you can do this. You can go and switch your draft spot, right? So I haven't figured it all out yet, but I was like, I want the 101, because I could be wrong. I can move back and change draft slots later, but a hunch is my projections could, because I'm a Travis Hunter guy. Right. Like if he's playing 60, 70% of the snaps on defense, and, I kind of nuke that output, and then give him a wide receiver 2 kind of projections. I'll be curious to see where he ends up. I think he could be the first player in my projections by a decent margin. So I wanted to get that first pick overall, just because it's fun too, right? It's always more fun when you get to draft your guys and you're the one guy with Travis Hunter. So we'll see how that all, more to come on that. If you keep watching the Dynasty Deep Dive, I will keep you guys posted on, everything Scott Fishbowl and how I approach that. But last question on roster construction before we move to your sleepers is this is a personal qualm I'm dealing with. So it's about taxi squads, right? So in a couple of the leagues I'm in, you can do the taxi duration for 2 years, right? You can, once you move them off, you can't move them back. But like I have Jermaine Burton on my taxi squad. He was a guy I was pretty sold on coming out just from, screw Matt Harmon. He hyped him up way too much on perception. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get this guy. And he showed, I only had like a handful of receptions his rookie year, but they were all like big plays. And if he wouldn't have been busy like gambling at the casinos and not showing up to walkthroughs, I think he could have had a really decent role in that offense by the end of the year. So the question for you there is, Shane, like, are you hanging on to guys like Jermaine Burton on your taxi squad over someone like a Damian Martinez? Or is that, because that's kind of deep at that point too, a 7th round running back who's buried behind Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. But I noodle with that one because, again, Martinez is on waivers, and I'm like, is Burton really worth hanging on to, for that second year and hoping that he gets his shit together, I guess?
No, he's gone. So
he's dust.
Yeah, he's absolutely gone. I have a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Not strict. Yeah, pretty strict. Like when it comes to wide receivers, there's a threshold you have to hit as a rookie, or I'm moving on from you. And his is so low that not just moving on from you, I'm cutting you. And I'd rather just take a shot on a running back. I'd rather take a shot on a player that I haven't seen fail in the NFL yet, because at least they haven't failed yet. Yeah. If it's a first round pick, there's value there. There's still value that I can probably move that player for. So I'll do that. But Burton, he's gone. Damian Martinez, LaQuint Allen, Taj Brooks, any of those dudes, I'll take over him without a doubt.
I love the conviction, dude. Yeah. I love it. And it kind of hurts.
Look, we all have our guys, right? I really thought Jalen Polk was going to be something last year.
Right.
Sky Moore. Loved Sky Moore at his rookie season. I'm like, oh, this dude's going to smash. The situation's great, blah, blah, blah. Sky Moore came out and just sucked. So moved on. It is what it is, right? So we're going to make mistakes. It's better to just move on from them than to hold on to them just because you're like some people have this weird need to like, oh, I have to hold on to this mistake for the rest of my life. Like, no, you made the mistake, move on. It's okay.
Right. Take lock. Right. Yeah. That is, I think that kind of ties to the first point that you made at the top of the show, is like, you don't know everything. You need to adjust to new information and be malleable. Right. So, I don't care what you say. You said former first rounder. I'm keeping a candle lit for Treylon Burks.
I hear you, but
I'm just kidding.
So Treylon Burks is funny, right? So I did that's one of the first players that like I was like, let me go dig in and like let me see like based off like what a wide receiver does in their rookie year, what happens after that. And it's a horror show for people that score like Treylon Burks. It's just an absolute horror show where Jameson Williams is a shining like just outlier.
Yeah.
And people hold on to it so much and they'll continue to. They'll be like, oh, well, Jameson. You're like, bro, go look at the other 60 players who are in that range and we're just trashed out.
Well, dude, this is a great little segment on, how to think about dynasty roster construction. Again, in a, I don't want to say it's as deep of a dive as maybe you guys go in your Manic and Chill episodes, because we didn't get into like rocket science here tonight, but I think there was some good, like, high level strategic advice here. So appreciate that. Hang around. Next, we are going to talk about our 2025 sleepers.
It is a damn shame we only get to do a handful of rookie drafts every season. After doing all this rookie analysis, you want more bites at the apple. And that's why we have the Fast Draft Origins tournament. You draft 6 rookies, the top 4 into your lineup. It's best ball style, and it's just $5 to win a $5,000 first prize. So if you're passionate about Taj Brooks or RJ Harvey, get on Fast Draft and use your favorite creator's code to get a $50 deposit match, to go make thousands of dollars drafting the rookies that you know and love.
Hell yeah. So that is where we're going to get into 2025 sleepers, and we're going to start with rookies that you could draft in Fast Draft's Rookie Origins tournament. So this is going to be fun. These are like kind of some deep cuts, right? So who is your favorite late round, 4th round or later in the NFL draft wide receiver from this class, and why?
Well, first of all, if we're being honest, it is a very, very, very not great group, right? It would be Jalen Royals, except that the Chiefs have, let's see there, Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. So, like, what's the upside to Worthy, or excuse me, to Royals? At best, he's the wide receiver 3 on his own team. No, we're not going to have that ever. I mean, because both those dudes are young. So Jalen Lane, good. It's a good season for Jalen's and Jaden's wide receivers.
So many of them in this rookie class. It's nuts.
So Jalen Lane, there he is. Physically impressive. Not size-wise. You're looking at his metrics, his physical metrics, very impressive. Now he's an older prospect, air quotes, which used to matter a lot more before the whole COVID year, and some kids were granted like 6 years in college. He is a slot. Probably, he's not going to get a ton of work with Debo and TMC there, unless, I don't know, some injury-prone wide receiver on their team happens to get injured. Oh, wait, that works out perfectly. There's Debo Samuel. Also, he's got punt returning skills. So if you are in a league with punt return yardage, or scoring, he's going to be a little secret weapon there because he's very good at it in college. I think he was all ACC or all ACC third team. What are those? He was all ACC team. So he's got punt returning skills. He's slot. He's been comped at least physically and a little bit play-wise to TMC, but that's a lofty comparison. That's like the high-end outcome. And part of it is just that offense. Like we saw it, Noah Brown, Amalea, nope, not going to say that name right. Zacchaeus, Noah Brown, Diami Brown, right? Now, in and of themselves, they didn't have, like, they weren't great year long, but they each had weeks where you're like, oh, this dude's actually usable. So, sure, all those targets could coalesce around Debo Samuel. I'm willing to take a shot on this guy. And then probably the best thing about him, he's absolutely not even being drafted in your rookie drafts.
Right.
He's just about every league I'm in, I have him in 11 leagues that I have him in. Every one of those leagues, pick them off the waivers for $1, $2, even if it's $1,000 fab. So,
dude, I love that. Like when we were doing our show prep for this, you mentioned you were going to say him, and I got juiced up. I'm not going to lie, because I watched it. This guy is this is not just a sleeper. This is deep sleep, right? And but the metrics are awesome, right? Like
Yeah.
97th percentile 40-yard dash, 95th percentile burst score. And the film is fun. And he really does remind me, not like he's going to play running back like Deebo Samuel, but like get him in the ball with the ball in his hands, get him in motion, and he can gash defenses, right? I actually really like the best comparable player to Kadarius Toney. Like, remember how hyped up we were about Kadarius Toney and what he could be?
Yep.
Well, imagine if this guy doesn't want to become a rapper and just wants to play football, right?
Now,
So
I think Kadarius Toney wanted to play football, though. He wasn't good at it. That was the problem. So now he's got to have a burgeoning rap career. Dude, just talking about his metrics, too, I just wanted to bring it up because I knew it was high. So I looked at his RAS score again. 112 out of 3,441 wide receivers over the last, I think that's 40 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's
a lot of receivers, first of all. The dude he's a physical stud, dude. And like you said, you like the tape. If you're going to take a shot on a player, like I'd much rather it be someone that is physically gifted that can hopefully refine the other skills that they need to.
Yeah, no, like I said, this was a fun one. The production was solid. I saw he had almost 1,000 receiving yards 1 year. And again, some special team yardage. So this is a guy who I think is, again, under the radar, a guy you can get on waivers, especially even in deeper leagues, which is really interesting. So love that you brought him up. My guy is a little more hyped up. It's Torrey Horton, right? He's getting drafted in most of your dynasty drafts, but I've been getting him kind of in the last rounds, right? And 5th round, Seattle Seahawks, absolutely phenomenal at CSU. He was the heart and soul of that team. Again, the competition was middling at best, right? But the production was just ridiculous until he had an injury and missed the rest of his fifth year senior season. And I was at the combine. I asked him, I'm like, why did you stay for your 5th year? Because if you look at this guy's junior year stats, like he could have came out right then and there and been like a 2nd rounder, in my opinion, 2nd, 3rd round guy. And he said he wanted to get his degree and finish school, which is admirable, I guess. But I would have loved to have seen him, go pro right away, selfishly. But he's got speed. He's a 4.4 guy. And, I'm not wooed by that Seattle Seahawks receiving corps, right? To your point, Cooper Kupp, often injured. MVS is probably their best outside receiver. And it's like, if I've got MVS standing in the way of Torrey Horton playing meaningful outside snaps, like I'm all in. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but
Absolutely. I like it.
I'll give you this one for going deeper and giving the folks someone who they should really be doing some homework on coming out of this.
Dude, yes, I went on Dynasty Daddy just to look at my roster ship, and I go, oh, apparently Jalen Lane is my guy because he's in I don't know what the math exactly works out to because I just closed it. I think he's like 37% of my leagues I have him in, so a lot.
So you have him in 11 leagues, and that's 37%. How many freaking leagues are you in?
28.
Dude.
Right. So let's
divide
that.
How do you
39? I'm sorry, it's 39.
How do you
Dude,
manage
that's lower?
all those leagues?
That's lower. There was a time, and it wasn't a good time when I was in 50+ leagues, and that was a shit show. That was like, this is too many. This manageable.
You got this. Okay,
yeah,
cool. So let's talk a little bit more about, one of the guys that I really liked in this class is Jarquez Hunter, right? Like, was super excited about him. And then it sounded like the Rams were pretty excited about him too when they moved up to get him. And, again, a guy who some could argue is a bit buried there. You've got a former 3rd rounder in Blake Corum, who he's going to have to fight for the RB2 role. I don't think obviously he's not immediately going to be the week 1 starter over Kyron Williams. But is he a guy that you are looking to stash in later rounds?
Look, any running back with a pulse on a good offense, if I can stash them, yeah, absolutely. Because I don't want, and this is the funny thing is I generally don't want to fill my roster with a lot of Jalen Lanes. Like, you know what I mean? I'll pick one of them and go, but for the most part, I want running backs. Just load them up with running backs. because they have the opportunity. Generally, it's a lot easier for them to give you fantasy production when they get in there than, let's say, a rookie wide receiver that's not elite, because targets aren't going to coalesce around a rookie wide receiver. They're going to dissipate between whoever else is on the field. But if Jarquez Hunter gets in there, pretty good chance that he's the only running back getting targets. If if anything were to happen to Kyron Williams, knock on wood, that game, and Jarquez has to start a game, I mean, he's going to get probably most of the rushing work too.
Right.
I mean, clearly they're not that in love with Blake Corum that they immediately went out the next season and drafted another running back.
Yeah. And he brings something that I don't think that Kyron Williams and Corum bring in terms of like just explosiveness and the ability to kind of gash defenses for long runs. I like this best comparable player of DeAndre Swift. I think that's another pretty good one. We do a decent job with the best comparable players. I'll give us a pat on the back there. And I think this is a guy, to your point, like nobody's Quasimodo. Nobody knows what's going to happen after the first few weeks of the year, and him being potentially thrusted into a really meaningful role in a great offense. So I like him. Give me one guy from the later rounds at running back that you think could be heavily involved before the end of the year.
I keep taking Taj Brooks, man. They need that second guy there. Now, Zach Moss is coming back, but that neck injury is a little disconcerting. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen guys get neck injuries and then try to come back, and it just no. Like Damian Harris last year, I think it was.
Chris Carson too, as well. Had to retire. Yeah.
So Taj is what's the word I'm looking for? A beast. Look at him. He's a little bowling ball, 5'9", 214. He is a truck stick like this, and it's a 6th round. So you know what I mean? Like obviously the NFL draft capital is not there, but I think he would complement Chase Brown very well. And if for whatever reason Chase Brown can't go and they ever want to lean heavily on the run, I think Taj Brooks could absolutely eat a ton of rushing attempts.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. And I brought up a stat. I don't have it handy right now, but it was like when Chase Brown sees less than 10 rushes in a game, he averages like 7 yards a carry. When he sees more than 10, he averages like 3.5 yards a carry. So I think Chase Brown is being drafted really high in best ball and redraft this year. But I personally see him and he might be kind of thrust into a bell cow role, but he seems like a change of pace back to me, who's kind of being asked to do a lot more than that. So I agree. A guy like Taj Brooks could complement him nicely. I'll call out the BMI, right? That 31.6 BMI, 83rd percentile is really solid. And he brings that kind of size, and I think the golden number is like 30. If you're 30 or above, it means that you're able, a BMI of 30 or above, it means that you can handle a heavy workload, right? So, something happens to Chase Brown, I could see Taj Brooks kind of being thrust in there. To your point, I'm not scared of Zach Moss. I think he had a moment for the Colts a few years ago, but a guy who's been removed from football, it's just tough to bet on a bounce back like that when you've got some fresh legs like this. Like, I didn't expect him to run a 4.52, which is pretty solid for his size. Yeah. His agility score is great. So this is definitely an intriguing rookie. I will be honest, he's been kind of a tough click for me just because he is getting drafted, right? And he's getting drafted sometimes in like the late 3rd, early 4th in some of the leagues I'm in, because I think people see that, he's got a clear path. But I don't know. You're kind of talking me into him as we talk through this. So I appreciate it.
And here's the thing. He's another guy generally not even being drafted. I'll go ahead and take him. And the guys that are available after the draft, on your waivers, it's like him, Donovan Edwards, like who has a clearer path. That's what you're looking for, at least, right? The narrative to it.
Yeah. So, for me, it's also been a little bit of Brashard Smith, just because of the electricity there. And I think that that's something that just when I like in my head envision the Chiefs getting back to the days of old, having a guy like Brashard Smith involved, standing next to Patrick Mahomes, catching a swing pass, like I just think he could be an interesting part of that offense. And I don't think, Kareem Hunt scares me, and I've never been sold on Isaiah Pacheco, and he's another 7th round guy. So it's not like he's got some draft pedigree to lock him in long term ahead of Brashard Smith. I think it's just whoever earns that role could see meaningful work. So both guys, to your point, going late in drafts, sometimes completely undrafted, that definitely should be stashing on your rosters and waiting for that moment where Isaiah Pacheco gets banged up and he's out for a week or two, and Brashard Smith gets thrust into a meaningful role. Same with Taj Brooks and Chase Brown. And then somebody's offering you like a second or, a meaningful asset for a guy like that. And you're like, yeah, man, this is what I do. I turn, undrafted players that I claim off waivers into legitimate assets. So, awesome. So let's round it out with tight ends. I'll just bring up one guy that the film's cool. I see you shaking your head already because you have the show sheet. And I kind of framed it up like, is Oronde Gadsden gonna be a thing? And should he be rostered in all tight end premium leagues?
Look, no. No, I'm good, man. I'm going to take a pass. The one position, and I'm not breaking any news by saying this, the one position that is not dictated, but like you can almost look at only athleticism to figure out if they're going to be any good is tight end. Where's Oronde Gadsden? Rondo. I called him a Rondo, first of all. I didn't even call him the right name. Where's Oronde Gadsden is. Now, is he, let's look up his Raz. Where is his Raz actually?
I was about to pull up his profiler page. I don't have his Raz handy, but to your point, I think people tout this guy as an awesome athlete, but the 4.7 speed is nothing special, right? And the speed score just for his weight, 61st percentile. Again, kind of middling, right? In all these metrics, a little bit undersized in terms of weight. So yeah, I think he's gotten touted as a good athlete, but he was playing at Syracuse, and it's easy to look good against some of the teams that Syracuse was playing. Again, best comparable player, Harrison Bryant.
Who I did like, you know what? And he's a what's the word I'm looking for? Cautionary tale, right? Because he's an Oronde Gadsden type player. That's who Oronde Gadsden is like, Harrison Bryant. And some people liked, me being one of them, I liked Harrison Bryant coming out. No, he's going to be fine. He could be pretty good. I got no hopes. Literally none. If you're not a super uber athlete, at least high end athlete at tight end, I have literally no hope for you. Absolutely none. And what is he? I mean, he's 6'5", so he's not small.
Yeah,
at all. He's got the good size for it, but he's not the type of athlete that you need. It'd be one thing if he had early draft capital and I could go, all right, maybe that doesn't matter. But mixing those two, that's like vodka and vinegar. I'm gonna pass.
Vodka and vinegar, gross.
Yeah, see, yeah, you don't want that. No one wants vodka and vinegar.
I never even heard of that, man.
Me neither. Literally, just made that up.
Yeah, and I'll close it out. I'll just say Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly are there, right? Like those are vets, and I think Harbaugh shows like I can see him showing respect to guys who have been in the league, and Dissly had his moments last year, right? And I think Conklin will probably actually most likely be the starter. So I actually see Gadsden as a bit buried there. I do not have him in any leagues. There's a league where like the tight end premium scoring is just so absurd that it was intriguing, right? Because any tight end rookie with a pulse at that point is getting scooped up. So I was like, is it worth it? But ultimately, actually, he didn't get drafted, but we were putting in our waiver claims after, and I'm like, I'm going for Brashard Smith because, like we talked about, you potentially get thrust into a meaningful role a bit easier in the running back position. So I know there's some Gadsden truthers out there, believe it or not. And so just sorry if that hurts your feelings, guys.
We all have it. We all have players that we like, right?
All right, let's close it out with some rapid fire takes. Give me one overrated rookie for 2025 that you are fading.
Scam Cataboo.
Scam.
Yeah, Cam Scatterbo. And it's not even a Cam Scatterbo thing, really. It's just I just did a Shane Says episode. I have my own show. I dropped that 2 days ago, yesterday. I don't know.
Wow. Awesome, man.
What is today? Wednesday? Thursday? I dropped that yesterday. Oh, wait. This isn't live. Whatever day this is, I dropped it several days ago. So I was just looking at scoring at 10 points, 12 points, 14 points, 16 points, 18 points per game for rookie running backs. And the hit rates for even 10 points per game for a fourth round running back, it's atrocious. It's less than 8%. I'm not betting against those odds. You know what I mean? So it's not even a Cam thing. It's not. I just like calling him Scam Cataboo because I think it's funny, but
that's awesome.
It's not even a him thing. It's really more the draft capital based off what I've seen over the last from I think it was like 9 years of data. It was like 2015 through 2023. So it's not even him, but kind of him.
I get what you mean. It's definitely him after he didn't know who Megatron was and struggled to recognize Darren Sproles. I don't know if you've seen that video, but
but that is disgusting.
Dude, it was like really disheartening. It was like, wait, you play football for a living. You know what I mean? And you don't know like some of the legends. Like I'll give him a pass. It was Marquise Brown or Amon-Ra and Equiminius, their show. And they asked him, they were just showing him pictures of players. He couldn't get Marquise Colston, which I'm like, all right, I'll give you a pass on that. But like, and then they showed Golden Tate and he's like, is that Megatron again? And I was just like, all right, it's over, dude. Like this guy is toast. Like, sometimes it's just the vibes you got to go off of, right? All right. So that's an overrated rookie. I love that one because it's bold. Give me an undervalued veteran that you're trading for.
Oh, there are so many, man. And I just looked at KTC just to give an idea. So who did I grab? Oh, Jerry Jeudy.
The Jew.
Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, 36 on KTC. I know some people don't like KTC. I just use it as a barometer. Calm down.
Yeah.
It's a good, like, oh, here's a point of reference. That seems entirely too low. Like, it's basically 12, 24, 36. It's literally one spot away from being a wide receiver 4. And I get it coming into 2024. I understand that thinking. After what we saw in 2024, I can't put that genie back in the bottle. Like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope,
he was a wide receiver 1 last year. He's a top 12 wide receiver. I completely agree. I kind of bought early on Jeudy, but I held the bag. So like it was a bit of a rocky ride for me, but it was really cool. I mean, I've always been sold on the talent coming out of Alabama. He's, I think he did get a little bit overrated as a route runner at a certain point, but he's found his stride in the NFL and he's in a good position again this year. So I agree. He's a good guy to target in Dynasty, relatively young. And yeah, I'll just close it out with the Jeudy. He has a Star of David, right? A necklace that he wears. And they're like, are you Jewish? And he's like, no, people just call me the Jew. And so it's
hilarious.
Again, in terms of vibes, Cam's got a boat, but Jerry Jeudy, nice.
Yes.
All right, let's close it out. Last question for you, man. One sleeper who could be a top 12 player at their position by 2026.
So we won't get into the talk of how I don't believe in sleepers, but I'll go down the ranks a little bit. Tony Pollard. I don't think many are predicting Tony Pollard to give you a top 12 season. Look back a couple years ago, he was a RB8, I believe. What changed last year? He didn't have the efficiency and he didn't have touchdown scoring. What are things that have a lot of variance, or not a lot of variance, but are more variable year to year? I don't know if I use that word correctly. Touchdowns and efficiency. You know, I'm old school. We used to say fade the efficiency. So I'm going to go with Tony Pollard because he had the workload. If he can get some efficiency back, he could fly up the scoring chart.
You're not worried about Tyjae Spears?
No. Although Tyjae had a nice little run when Tony didn't play him when he was injured in that season. But I had to pick someone that was plausible, and Alvin Kamara, for some reason, is way too low. But you can't say Alvin Kamara and sleeper in the same sentence because you should get dick punched if you do. So I had to go with Tony Pollard.
Well, awesome, man. I really appreciated having you on the show. I think the listeners can learn a lot from you, and tell them where they can find more of your work.
Yeah, over at ddfantasyfootball.com, at the YouTube channel, DDFFB, I believe is a YouTube channel, or just click on Shane Says. Constantly, constantly clicking out some content the team put out, and then you can just like us and subscribe on YouTube. Check us out all the time.
Yeah, I'll tag your guys' show in the description so they can find it easily. And you're at Shane Says FF on X. And like I said, man, you're an absolute a legend in the industry. And thanks for joining the show. And to all the viewers, if you have any questions, drop a comment. I'll sync up with Shane. We'll see if we can get an answer for you. Give a like if you like the show, and subscribe, because I'm going to be bringing awesome guests like Shane to the show all off season and all the time. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.